Okay, so let's go ahead and get back into our coverage over Absolute Flash. And we're going to pick up with two more issues. Now, I kind of want to start off with issue number 6, and here is the reason why. Because issue number 6 kind of begins the process of us learning the actual origin of the rogues in the Absolute universe, but also kind of giving us small appearances of other characters who may or may not play some major roles down the road in later books when it comes to Absolute Flash. Like, for example, Jay Garrick. Man, I'm really hyped to see what they do with his character in the Absolute universe. But with that being said, issue number 6 is more of a flashback until the very end of the actual issue. So, getting into the opening pages for issue number 6, we do pick up 6 months in the past. Now, with this going back 6 months in the past, we do pick up with, well, George Harkness. Now, as we all know, George becomes Captain Boomerang in the Absolute universe. But for George, we currently see him at the moment right now being thrown out of the bar after trying to hit on somebody's sister in the bar. But right after he's thrown out of the bar, he's then confronted by Rudy West, or Colonel West, the father to Wally West. Now, when it comes to Colonel, it's him right now trying to recruit the different members of the Rogues for a new assignment, a new mission. Now, we also learned that for the Rogues, that right now they were part of the military, but no longer part of the military because of what happened in Syria. And so we're kind of left to wonder what in the world the Rogues did in Syria that would get them kicked out of the military, and it's them right now trying to hide from the military and also the government. But it's Colonel West saying, I can help you. Like, I can give you a new life again, but you have to agree to my terms. And so you do have George say, fine, I'll go ahead and come with you. But once you do have the colonel being able to recruit, George Harkness, you didn't have the colonel go to his motel to call up his son, Wally. Now, we get the idea, really, we're being reminded that when it comes to Wally West and his father, the two characters, they don't have the best relationship with one another. And so for the colonel right now, it's him calling his son and just wanting to talk to his son, but his son is not answering his calls nor his text messages. But then the following day, we see the colonel head over to Kansas. Now, when he does arrive in Kansas, his main goal at the moment is to recruit two other people, and that will be the Snart siblings, Leonard and also Lisa. Now, when it comes to Lisa, you know her as Golden Glider, but we see here that she had lost her legs, and supposedly she had lost her legs in the Syria incident. So once again, we're kind of left to wonder what exactly happened when it came to the whole Syria incident. But we also see that for Leonard, he wants to agree, but at the same time, he hates the idea of leaving his sister behind because, again, she lost her legs. But it's the colonel saying, listen, I have the ability to help her regain the ability to walk again. And so you have Leonard say, you know what, fine. Oh, by the way, just in case you don't know, Leonard becomes Captain Cold in the Absolute universe. But right after that, you didn't have the colonel once again try to call up his son, Wally West. Now, of course, once again, you have Wally not trying to answer the call from his father. But while trying to leave a voicemail, that is when you have one of the members of the Rogue inform the colonel, like, hey, listen, we don't need to travel to our next location because the next person that you're trying to bring in for this mission, yeah, they found us. And we kind of find out it's Jesse James, better known as the Trickster. Now, when it comes to Jesse, she is a geek, but also like she had placed trackers on each member of the Rogues. And so with that happening, she realized there was something going on when all three trackers were all together in one particular spot. Now, she believes that right now it's the colonel who's trying to take them away to a prison because what they did in Syria. Now, we also kind of learn here what exactly happened in Syria. And we learn here that apparently they were court-martialed. And the reason why, because they went rogue and took a bribe from a foreign government. And so that's why they were court-martialed for. But anyways, though, apparently a few other things happened in Syria as well. But it's the colonel saying, listen, I'm not here, Jesse, to take you away to prison. Like, no, I'm here to offer you a mission. And so you didn't have the colonel walk away, but for the Rogues, they're kind of like, dude, where in the world are you trying to take us to? So this leads us over to Fort Fox. Now, when it comes to Fort Fox, we don't get a chance to learn much about the actual fort here, but it's the Rose kind of wondering what in the world is going on here because they're seeing all these advanced technology around them, creatures as well. But that is when they are confronted by Barry Allen and also Eleanor Thawne. Now, for these two characters, they're like, hey, listen, you're right now in Fort Fox. With the fort right now being paid by the government, using that money right now to help advance technology, to help people out there in the world. Now, for the rogues, they already know if the government is paying, if the military is paying, then most likely they want you guys to create weapons. And you have Barry say, yes, you're right, but here's the catch. We're not going to give you weapons. We're going to turn you guys into weapons. But then we're given a different flashback. It takes place in 1944, and we pick up with Jay Garrick, and we see another character known as Thawne as well. Now, we have no idea who it actually is, but we see that for Jay Garrick, he wants to shut down some kind of project. The problem is that Thawne does not want to shut it down at all, but for Jay Garrick, he falls into the actual project. That's the only thing we get. We also get the idea that that project back then is how Barry Allen is able to have technology so advanced in the current time. But either way, but now we switch over to the present day and really picking up where our last video left off at. When it came to the Colonel West, he had found out that Barry and also Eleanor were hiding all these different things from him. And so he had just found them. But we also see him calling up Wally to apologize, but also say like, what happened to your mother wasn't your fault. The problem is that when it comes to the Colonel, he's then grabbed from behind and captured by Eleanor. And so for Wally, he was unable to hear the full message that was given to him by his father. Now, I want to go ahead and transition over to Absolute Flash issue number 7. And we do pick up with Wally West and also Grodd, but they're currently in Missouri. Now, with the two characters currently in Missouri at the moment, you have both characters kind of realize that one, a bad storm is coming in, but also two, they need some food. Now, here's the thing, because when you do have Wally and also Grodd walking to a nearby gas station, the reflection of Wally West has its own like movement, but Wally West does not see it at all. So kind of get the idea that another character is most likely going to make their move very soon. But once you have Wally West and Grodd get inside the gas station, for Wally West, he was kind of hoping the shop owner would go ahead and like give him food for free because he's technically a runaway. But the guy says no. And so you didn't have Wally West go out of their way to just use their super speed to grab everything he needs to basically survive. The problem is that because he did not eat anything for a good period of time, that once he tried to use his super speed, well, he ran out of energy and just completely passed out. But now we switch back over to Fort Fox, and when we do, we pick up with the Colonel, who's right now a prisoner to Eleanor. Now, at first, she wanted to go ahead and kill him off, but then he begins to beg for his life, begging her to allow him to stay alive. But she then asks him, if I keep you alive, will you then help us get your son back here? And he says yes. But then he begins to ask questions. And she says this came from our predecessors, but also they had found God. Now, for the rogues in the present day, they're trying their best to locate, well, Wally West. And so they do have a tracker on him and being able to find him. But while you have the rogues trying to find Wally, we see that Wally is currently in prison because, well, he did try to rob a store. But while you have Wally West trying to, explain things to the police officer, well, that is when the wall just completely breaks down. And we see that it's the rogues who were able to locate Wally. Now, with them being able to locate Wally, they're kind of like, hey, Wally, we found you, so it's now time for you to come in with us. But you have Wally say, I'm not going anywhere with you guys unless we find Grodd, my only friend. And so you have the rogues kind of agree to allow Wally West to suit up, give him some food as well, so that he can use his powers, but to also find Grodd. The problem is that right now, Grodd is right in the middle of the storm. Now, this also leads us into finding out about another character that came from Fort Fox. And that would be Weather Wizard. Now, for Weather Wizard, just kind of like Heatwave, he was on a project that kind of fell apart that was being done by Barry Allen. Because for Barry Allen, like we saw in the last chapter, he began the process of turning different characters and different kind of weapons. In our last video, we met Heatwave, and Heatwave was one of those characters who was turned into some kind of mutated person. And so for Weather Wizard, he once again one of those projects done by Barry Allen, and the guy right now has gone insane, and that's why in this area there's this crazy storm happening at the moment. But while the battle goes on, you do have Barry Allen being able to, not Barry Allen, woo, sorry y'all, you have Wally West being able to find Grodd. And so once you do have Wally being able to find Grodd, you didn't have Wally West take his attention onto Weather Wizard to say, you know what, it's now time for me to bring you down. And so when you have Weather Wizard hit Wally with a lightning bolt, when it comes to Wally, it just powers him up more, allowing him the chance to take down Weather Wizard. Now, once that's done right there, you didn't have the rogues being able to catch up with Wally. Now, once they do, is Wally saying like, hey, listen, I'm not going to Fort Fox at all. Like, y'all can go ahead and try. But once again, I will fight you guys to run away. But you didn't have the rogues say they're also not going back to Fort Fox either. Because like we saw in the last chapter, they returned to weapons. And so with them now being weapons, they have the right to do whatever they want. They're basically saying, we're going rogue now. And Wally, do you want to join us? And you have Wally say yes. So officially, you have Wally West joining the rogues. But this is where we're going to end today's comic book video. So please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, see y'all next time. Later. Now, actually, hold on here. You know what? I don't want to end the video here. I want to go ahead and add issue number 8 into this video. And because issue number 8 is just like issue number 6, where it's really more of us getting an interlude, but interlude being used as a way to explore the origin of somebody or something in the absolute universe. And so this time, we're going to sit down and talk about the idea of Barry Allen, like his actual origin in the absolute universe. So it all started years ago at Keystone University. And we see here that for Barry Allen, he is a professor at this university. Now, while being a professor at this university, you have Barry just, doing his usual work. He has a class to teach, doing his job, but he has no idea that someone else in his class right now is there to watch him. And that would be Eleanor Thawne. Now, of course, this begins the process of the idea of Eleanor trying to recruit Barry Allen, because we also learn here that for Barry Allen, he used to work at Princeton. The problem was that, well, some of the things he's working on got him shut down there, and unfortunately had to find a new job somewhere else. And so when it comes to Eleanor, she loves the idea of how brilliant Barry Allen is, but she also believes that Barry could finish a certain project that she's right now also trying to finish as well. But when it comes to her, she said, listen, how about this? How about I'm able to give you the funding you need so that you are able to continue to discover different things happening across the world? And so for Barry Allen, he is intrigued, but he wants to know what she means by the idea to continue to discover big things happening across the world. So now we see Eleanor take Barry Allen over to, Fort Fox, as Fort Fox was beginning the process of being built up. Now, while being there, you also have Eleanor explain that she is the granddaughter to Eobard Thawne. And that right there for me was kind of major. But it's the idea that her grandfather, Eobard, was working on a way to access another dimension, a dimension of pure energy. Now, the problem was that the different methods do try to use as a way to access that other dimension kind of had the military question him a tad bit. And so he knew that sooner or later, they're going to shut him down. And so, of course, he sped up the process of trying to find a way to access that other dimension. So this leads into a deeper flashback. With this flashback, we do see here that for Eobard, what he did was he had built a device that would allow him the chance to access this other dimension. Now, the whole entire project was called Blue Trinity. Now, when it came to Jay Garrick, he got word about what Eobard was trying to do and tried his best to shut down the project. Eobard had pushed Jay into the actual dimension and, well, Jay disappeared. Now, when it came to Eobard, he believed this other dimension was calling out to him. And so when he tried to reach out for it, there was this explosion. The problem was that they never found Eobard ever again. And so this leads us back over to the point in time where it's Barry Allen meeting up with Eleanor. And so after the flashback, what we see at the moment right now is really more of Barry Allen agreeing to work with Eleanor to continue where her grandfather had left off at. And so we didn't jump forward 2 years later. And we see that Colonel West is now being brought into the program. Now, with him being brought in, that basically means the military is now being involved. And for Barry Allen, he hates the idea of the military being involved. But it's Eleanor saying, we don't have a choice here. Like, we need the money, we need the funding. And so with them being in, it helps us out in the long run. But it's also her saying, like, listen, all we have to do is give them a few weapons here and there over time, and they'll be okay over there. And then we'll be able to continue on with our experiment. And so for Barry Allen, he does agree, but then he gets upset again because for Barry, he wanted the first person to go into that other dimension. But for Eleanor, she says no, because again, safety reasons. She wants to use other people first to see how everything will go once somebody walks into that other dimension. But then later on in the day, we see Barry Allen meet up with Wally West for the first time. And I like this a lot because it's Barry Allen sitting down with Wally West, right? And you have the two characters being able to communicate with one another to begin the process of building their bond. Because for Wally West, he hates the idea of being forced to move around to different bases across the country because, well, his father. And so it's Barry saying, yeah, Wally, listen, bro, I truly understand because for me growing up, it was safe for me and my dad as well. But it's also Barry trying to find a way to connect to Wally. Like, hey, you like music? Well, listen, did you know that when it comes to music, math is still involved? And so you really have Barry Allen trying his best to start off that bond with Wally. Now, later on, we see that for Barry Allen, also Eleanor, you did have them send in 3 people into this other dimension, right? Now, once they do arrive into that other dimension, right off the bat, they learn that they were not the first ones to arrive in that dimension. And the reason why, because they find some kind of relic, some kind of spacecraft, who knows? But all I know is that right now, you didn't have the 3 being able to bring that craft back into the absolute DC universe. Now, the question is, where did it come from? Who does it belong to? But also, like, can they go back in there and collect different samples of different things from that dimension as well? And really for Barry Allen, he wants to do it right now. Because for Eleanor, it's more of her saying like, can you stop? Because for her, she realized this dude is trying his best to rush everything. And I mean literally everything to get what he wants, to achieve the goals that he wants to achieve. But it's her saying like, we got to be careful here. We have to take our time. Why in the world are you trying to rush every single thing when it comes to us getting over into that other dimension? Because we don't know everything about that other side yet. Like all we know right now is that we were the first ones there. And so we were able to find some alien relic and bring it back over here. And that's really it. So stop trying to rush us and let us take our time. And for Barry, he agrees. Now, when you do have Barry walk away, you have something called out to Barry from the other side. Now, for Barry, he believes it's Eobard. Now, I also kind of believe the possibility that it could be Jay Garrick. I could be wrong here because technically we don't get confirmation here. But you did have this person tell Barry, like, stop. You must stop. Wally. It must be Wally West. And the book ends on that note right there. So with that being said, guys, please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, see y'all next time. Later.